Hello everyone and welcome back to the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel and welcome back to Transfer Talk. It has been a very busy last few weeks since the transfer window shut and then reopened 2 weeks ago today. Norwich City are signing another player, they're signing another goalkeeper as Liam Manning and Ben Napper continue their revamp of Norwich City's goalkeepers with already, as we know, Angus Gunn going out of the door. Looks like George Long is probably going to follow him, and Vicente Reyes as well. Norwich have already signed Daniel Grimshaw as their second choice option. You can go and check out the transfer video we did for that deal. They've also signed Louis Molden on a free from Crystal Palace as the third choice keeper. And finally, they're going to sign the first choice goalkeeper. They have opted for Vladan Kovacevic, the Bosnian goalkeeper, who is currently at Sporting Lisbon, was on loan at Legia Warsaw for a brief period of last season, but we'll dive into that in just a second as we usually do here on Transfer Talk. If you're new to the channel, what we do is we look at the player, we do a bit of a background information, we share our research and our thoughts on the deal as well, and we really just try and sell the player to you as fans, and we try and educate you as best as we possibly can. So, first things first, as we've already discussed, he's Bosnian. He's yet to make a senior cap for his country. He's also 27 years old. And once again, we see Norwich signing a player in the what's considered the prime years of their career. They've already signed Jakov Medic. Well, not already, but a deal it's pretty much all but done with Jakov Medic. He's come at 26 years old. Harry Darling is 26. Daniel Grimshaw, apologies if I get this wrong, believe he's 29. So again, Norwich signing a player who in their prime years, which we actually covered on the channel, I believe we touched over it in a podcast around January time, where we spoke about how Norwich were under Yahannisov Torup only signing young players. They weren't signing players who were in their prime years that sort of have a really developed understanding of football and also the higher leagues and its quality. The only real player who Norwich did sign sort of fell under that bracket was Emiliano Marcondes. But now that they're signing players who have got a lot more experience at high level, who have been and done it and played relatively well at good levels. So, you know, you look at Kovacevic here, who's also played in Poland. He actually played at the same team Ante Cianat played, who Norwich signed from, Rakov Szczeszów. So you've already got a bit of a pre-existing relationship there, which perhaps can help Kovacevic settle in. He's currently set to fly out to England, have his medical tests all sorted, and then he'll join Norwich City. But no, another player around their prime years, entering sort of the peak physical performance of their careers. So really good, and it's also really good Norwich have finally got the player that they're going to have as their first choice keeper, because you know Angus Gunn, it's been a month now since the season ended, nearly 2 months, and Norwich hadn't secured that first choice target yet. It was potentially going to be Jakov Stolarczyk from Leicester City, but they've opted for Kovacevic instead, it seems, which is perfectly fine by me. So that brings us very nicely on to the next point. He's a goalkeeper, as I've already said. Don't really need to say too much more on that. Right-footed, for those who look at that in terms of a balance of right and left footers in a squad. I will just say this again, because in all the Transfer Talk videos we did last season, you can go through the playlist that will come up on the end card at the end of this video. Norwich were pretty much only signing left-footed players. I think only 2 or 3 of their signings last season in total were right-footed. But this season, so far, they've not signed one left-footed player. They've only gone for the right-footers. So clearly, where Yahannisov Torup felt it was important to have left-footed players in those relevant positions to have a balance, Liam Manning has just completely flipped that on its head, and he's signing all the right-footed ones. But that's all really what we're going to touch on for that point. We'll go on to the third. So, as said at the start, he is currently at Sporting Lisbon, the giants of Portuguese football. He has only made 10 appearances there. He signed from Rakov Częstochowa in the I think it was last season at the start he signed for them after an impressive 2 years at Częstochowa. I think he signed in the summer of last year, and then only went on to make 10 appearances in all competitions. He gets 3 clean sheets, which is okay. It's not bad. A clean sheet every 3 games. That's not bad at all. If you kept up that in a championship season, you would have 15 clean sheets by the end of the season, which is perfectly fine. That probably puts you right up there in terms of the Golden Glove award. Of course, if it was last season, there'd be a fair few goalkeepers above Kovacevic. But no, it's not bad at all, and considering really he was brought in sort of as a backup option, really, signed at 26 years old and not utilised all that much, hence why, as we'll cover in a second, he was sent out on loan. It's not bad. I think he played 6 matches in the Liga Portugal, and he made 2 clean sheets. That's, again, not bad. It's a clean sheet every 3 matches. That's not a bad record at all for a goalkeeper. When you look at sort of how their goalkeeping statistics did fall off a cliff almost last season. Angus Gunn didn't really have the season that you would have expected of him. George Long just was subpar in pretty much every single performance he had in a Norwich City shirt last season. Vicente Reyes only played twice or maybe 3 times, and there's only so much he can do, considering his lack of first team football in at senior level. Really, had a full season with Forest Green in League Two, and then had Cambridge United for half a season in League One. Was really untested at a decent level. But Kovacevic is, the Polish Premier League. It's maybe not exactly the best quality of league, but to play 6 matches in the Liga Portugal, where there's a lot of top teams, he did well. Yeah, it must be said, he's doing what he did well. So on to the actual deal itself. Again, Norwich, they're doing cheap business, so it's smart, considering he's at the peak years of his career, Kovacevic. Norwich are doing well here. Only a £2 million deal with future bonuses. I believe that is included within the deal. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But, again, Norwich are being really smart here. Their business so far, they've identified exactly the positions they need so far, and they're signing players on real cheap fees, which is very pleasing to see. They're doing in really smart business, it seems. They're signing Jakov Medic for 1.8 million, and then add-ons which can take it to around 2.5 million. They signed Daniel Grimshaw for £600,000. Harry Darling was brought in on a free, as was Louis Molden. And now they're signing their first choice keeper for £2 million from a relatively big club. So no, Norwich are being smart here. I'm a big fan of the business Norwich City have done with Ben Napper and Liam Manning. Of course, it's yet to see if that will be successful, because you have all of pre-season for these players to learn the playing style, and then the actual season to perfect it, really, just to get a few more miles in them to just become better as players. But no, £2 million, more than happy with that. I think that's a real good fee for Norwich. They've done well there for a player who has evidently got quite a bit about him. Sporting Lisbon wouldn't sign, any club wouldn't sign a goalkeeper if they didn't think at the time they were good enough to be at their club, especially with goalkeepers. It's all about challenging the players picked ahead of you and wanting to be that first choice. So no, Norwich wouldn't sign this player as a first choice if they didn't think he was better than what they have signed, and if he wasn't capable of providing the standard, if he couldn't set the standard for the other goalkeepers behind him. So no, 2 million plus performance related bonuses. So that will be along the lines of, probably a number of clean sheets, or if Norwich end up promoted to the Premier League, maybe if they end up in a playoff position, that we don't know the exacts of that. Only really Norwich City Football Club know that. But no, £2 million from Sporting Lisbon. It's not bad at all. So on to the last point, as we sort of touched on very briefly at the start. Last season, for half of the season, he was on loan at Legia Warsaw in the Polish Premier League. Also played for them twice in the Europa Conference League. He actually played against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and Legia Warsaw won that game. Kovacevic, I believe, was actually awarded man of the match for that performance. So that's not bad at all, is it? Playing for, very much a lesser team than Sporting Lisbon, let alone Chelsea, and putting in a solid performance. Although I think they were already, at the time, I think they were 3-1 down on aggregate, so it didn't matter. Maybe it was 4-1. It was one of the other. So the away leg didn't really matter much, but they still beat Chelsea in a 90-minute game, and he did really well in the game. So it's very good. As well, made 9 appearances at Legia Warsaw. So last season he didn't really play much football, which perhaps will hinder his match sharpness, you may feel. But coming into Norwich, where he is going to be playing a lot of football, it has been made clear he is the first choice goalkeeper. He's going to start over Grimshaw and Molden unless performances aren't convincing whatsoever. And that's really been the theme of what fans on social media have thought about Kovacevic. There's been a bit of, not exactly backlash, but there's been opinions that are strong about if this is really the right keeper for Norwich. A lot of people have maybe not been fans of the signing, but as a lot of people have said, and I'll say it as well, you can't really judge a player until you see them with your own eyes on a regular basis. That's when you can get opinions on players as such. That's not to say, that's not me saying that, watching a player and they've been poor elsewhere, you can't think that they're poor, because that's all you have to base it off. Realistically, no Norwich fan would have watched the Polish league or the Portuguese league last season unless they really love football. But no, I think you've got to, with any signing, be patient. Probably I may contradict myself a bit here, because I am quite opinionated when I see players perform and sort of what I base it off. But no, I think you need to give every player time, definitely. You need to sort of give them a couple of games to really be able to base a solid opinion. I can't remember exactly who put it on social media. I think it might have been an account called Canaries Corner. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but they flashed up all of Kovacevic's appearances and statistics, and he effectively, based off his career, was averaging almost a clean sheet every 2 matches. So you have to look at that and then think, well, hang on, that maybe he could be good here. But no, ultimately, going back on to the actual point, he was on loan at Warsaw, due to a lack of game time at Sporting Lisbon, to get him playing at a decent sized club, in European football as well. But just didn't play all that much, which is a shame for him. It's a shame for any player, but as I said, really that may affect his own morale maybe, and his sharpness in not playing all that many games. But as we've already covered, he's coming to Norwich. He's the first choice goalkeeper. He's going to play a lot. He's got all of pre-season to learn Liam Manning's play style. Then he's got the early matches of the season to learn what English football is all about, and the intensity of the Championship and the English game. Norwich may get a Premier League opponent in the Carabao Cup. He may play in the game. So you never know. There's a lot of ifs and buts as to if he'll be playing against higher ranked opposition in England. So it'll be very intriguing to see how he adapts to it all, and if it will be a successful signing or if it won't, with any signing in football. But there you have it. What do you think of Norwich City's potential signing of Vladan Kovacevic? It looks like it's nearly there and it's over the line, and he will become Norwich City's, I want to say, fifth signing of the summer. It's either fifth or sixth. So, you know, they're getting the business done really early, Norwich. They're addressing the areas they need and they're getting it sorted. But let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. This has been Transfer Talk on the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel. It's goodbye for now, and we'll see you in the next video of ours.